Hey, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today is an article format of the show, so we'll be going through an intensive article, going through the Kickstarter prototype rules, how to make a prototype for Kickstarter. If you have not yet, you're listening to this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. In addition, if you're listening on my podcast app when it comes to iTunes or Spotify, give us a positive rating and review. And also, if you want to book a one-on-one coaching call with me, you can go to the link crowdcrux.com/coaching. That's crowdcrux.com/coaching, or go and check out the links in the show notes. That being said, let's jump right into today's episode. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist. Fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. Kickstarter prototype rules. How to make a prototype for Kickstarter. In order to launch a crowdfunding campaign on a platform like Kickstarter, you gotta have a prototype. A prototype is a preliminary model for your product, which you're gonna offer in your reward tiers and becomes super important when you move into fulfillment and manufacturing. Without a functioning prototype, you can't launch a project on Kickstarter. And further, you won't be able to procure the marketing materials for a successful raise anyway. So it's extremely important that you understand the process. We're going to go through in this article some Kickstarter rules on prototypes, step-by-step explanation of how to get your prototype made, and when you can start marketing your actual prototype. If you're ready to bring a new invention from your idea into reality, this is the time to do it. Kickstarter prototype rules. The platform itself aims to satisfy the backer community. And with this in mind, they put requirements in place to ensure that customers see on a campaign page that what this actual product is closely resembles what's going to arrive on their doorstep. So here's some of the rules when it comes to Kickstarter. Number one, prototype demonstration should reflect a product's current state. Creators cannot use CGI or special effects to demonstrate functionality that does not yet exist. If a project requires software or hardware integration, creators must show that functionality clearly works. And you also got to disclose, if it doesn't, that it has not yet been developed. Basically, this means that you got to prove that the prototype actually works before you ship it out to your backers. And if you fail to do this, your campaign is in jeopardy of being shut down by the Kickstarter team. How to get your prototype made. All right, so we've laid out the rules for Kickstarter prototyping and sort of the important regulations there, and it seems a little bit straightforward. However, the hard part is how do you actually bring this thing to life? So let's get into a basic step-by-step process for doing this. Step one, sketch it out. Your product idea has been rattling around in your brain for a while now, and finally, it's time to get this idea down onto paper. Even if you're not much of an artist, don't worry about it. This is a time for brainstorming through what's called a concept sketch, which can be thought of as a rough rendering of what it's going to look like in the finished version. In most cases, you should probably make a couple of sketches from multiple angles to gain a thorough grasp of what your product is going to look like. Feel free to use labels to identify key components and functionalities. Start asking yourself questions like, how big is this going to be? What materials might I use? What challenges might I face? Once you've got the sketch where you like it, it's time to start digitally rendering. In addition, if you'd like more information on this, you can also go to my website, crowdcrux.com, crowdcrux.com, or you can check out more videos on this YouTube channel. Step number 2, create a design file. While you can bring basic sketches to design firms to complete your prototype, you'll be way ahead of the game if you also use a little bit of software tools to send it out ahead of time and to start working on it ahead of time. There are tons of them out there, but here are a few that you can look into. Adobe Photoshop InDesign, Tinkercad, CAD, and SketchUp. Sometimes these programs can be difficult to operate if you don't have any experience using them. However, if you intend to create products in the future, it can be well worth your time to spend a little bit of effort and education on actually learning this tool. You could also consider hiring a freelancer or working with someone in order to create the design files for you. This might be great to get a professional look that's needed for you to move on to the next stage. Step number 3, get your first prototype. Here's the deal. Your prototype isn't going to come out perfect the first time you try. This is a process and one that takes patience through trial and error. Therefore, you should start by creating a quick and cheap prototype, could be through 3D printing, and you can consider using some services like this. Shapeways. Upload your design file directly and choose the materials that will be needed to produce your prototype. The platform provides instant pricing, and you also get a good idea of what the finished product will look like. Sculptio will render your 3D printed creation and ship it directly to your door. This will allow you to have the product in your hands and get a feel for what the finished product will be. iMaterialize. Same deal as Shapeways and Sculptio. Upload your 3D design file, specify SKUs, and you're ready to rock. You should definitely think about the look and the feel of this particular prototype, how it looks when it comes to the environment that you're using it. And once you finally get it to where you like it, you can make contact with an engineer or professional prototype designer to get the real deal put together. This is an extremely exciting moment in the product creation phase. Step 4, get a manufacturer. When it comes to manufacturers, you want to get a quote and estimates from several different companies. It's important to strike a balance between quality and cost effectiveness. You don't want to price yourself out of the market, but you also need to ensure that the manufacturer is reputable and has a strong track record of making killer products. Luckily, we put together a list of some of the best companies for Kickstarter manufacturing, which you should check out as a link in the description or in the article accompanying this audio clip. Make sure you check that out to get started on your search. Prototypes and marketing. Running a Kickstarter campaign starts long before you go live. This is a stage we call a pre-launch, where you build up a crowd of backers that are primed to convert on day one and help get you that all-important funding and rush of funding when you actually go live. That being said, you'll want to start marketing your product and collecting leads at least 10 weeks in advance of your campaign, if not more. What if your prototype isn't quite ready yet? Well, you have a couple of options. You can push back the launch date, and you don't want to necessarily rush this. You got to take the time to get the product exactly where it needs to be and then start marketing it. You could also consider using a close prototype. If your prototype only has a couple of minor alterations and still needs to just undergo a couple of those things, you can start marketing the prototype, and if it's going to closely resemble the Kickstarter offering, it might be okay. As long as you don't radically shift the design or leave out key functionality that you've promised, this route is usually acceptable. The prototype is the holy grail of the marketing experience because that's really when you can whet people's appetite and give them an idea of what the project's going to be alike. This was meant to give you a quick primer and not cover all of the nuts and bolts that goes into creating a prototype. If you want to check that out, number one, go and check out my blog, crowdcrux.com. You can also talk about your individual case with a coaching call at crowdcrux.com/coaching. In addition, I got a ton of other videos on prototyping when it comes to my YouTube channel under my name, Salvador Briggman. Keep in mind, the prototype is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot that goes into running a successful crowdfunding campaign. You've got to stay up to date with your research. The best thing you can do is listen to a copy of the Kickstarter launch formula, which is available on Audible. If you like the way I read and my no-nonsense style, you're going to like the Kickstarter launch formula. You can go and check it out at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That's crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. Or if you want just more information in general, you can go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter and join my free course there. Thank you for listening. Give me a positive rating and review if you get a chance. Give this a thumbs up if you're listening to this on YouTube, and I will see you next time.